Let's practice solving percent proportions together. For number 1, we have what is 10% of 160. So I'm going to go ahead and underline the what is, and then box the 10%, and then double underline this of 160 just to organize all the pieces. And then the percent proportion we can use here is just saying that is the ratio of the is to of is equal to the ratio of the percent to 100. Then we can go ahead and just set up this proportion using the pieces we have in this equation. We always are going to have 100 on the bottom of one of the ratios. For the what is, that's going to be this top left, and that's going to be the variable x because we don't know what that is, so that's going to be an x over here. And then what else do we have? The of is going to be this 160, so that's going to go underneath that x, so underneath x we'll put that number 160. And then finally for this 10%, let's go ahead and put that on the top right. 10% means 10 over 100, so let's go ahead and put 10 over 100. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and simplify this the best we can. So we're going to divide these both by 10. So we really have the ratio of x to 160 is equal to 1 to 10. At this point, we can go ahead and see that we can get from 10 to 160 pretty nicely. It's going to multiply by 16. So 1 can become x here by multiplying by 16. So we can say here that x is going to equal 16. Putting this all together, we can say that 16 is 10% of 160. Here's number 2. So we want to go ahead and identify the what is, that's going to be x is, and then we have of 90 as well as 20%. So the what is going to be x because we don't know what that is. Of is going to be 90, and then the 20% is a ratio of 20 per 100. So let's go ahead and solve this proportion here. So on the right side, this ratio of 20 to 100, we can divide them both by 10. And then what we have here is going to be the ratio of x to 90 is equal to 2 to 10. Now feel free to simplify this more, but we can see that hopefully 10 times 9 is going to be 90. So then 2 multiplied by 9 is going to be 18. So we conclude that x is 18 and say that 18 is 20% of 90. Here's number 3. For number 3, we have what is 72% of 125. Identifying each of our parts, we have what is, we have the of 125, and we have the 72%. Now, the is going to be x, we don't know. The of is 125, that's the whole, and then the percent is 72 per 100, or 72%. Okay. On this right side here, let's go ahead and divide this 72 and 100 by the GCF, so we can divide these both by 4. If we go ahead and do that, we're going to simplify this ratio and say x to 125 is going to be equal to 18 to 25. And then if we see here, this is kind of nice because 25 times 5 is 125. So 18 times 5 is going to get us this x value. So we can say that x here is going to equal 90. So we know that 90 is 72% of 125. Here's number 4. For number 4, we have what is 75% of 180. When we see that word what, we're going to replace it with an x. So the x is going to be the is in this case. The 180 is going to be the of. I'm going to put that down here. And the 75% is a ratio per 100, so always put the percentage on top of 100. Okay. The percentage can be simplified here because we're given it, and they can be both divisible by 25. That's their GCF. So simplifying this, we're going to get the ratio of x to 180 is equal to 3 to 4. Okay, now this is kind of nice because 4 is going to go into 180 evenly. It's going to multiply by 45. And so 3 is going to go into this x also 45 times. So 45 times 3, I believe, is 135. So we're going to say x is equal to 135. So in conclusion, we can say 135 is 75% or 3/4 of 180. Here's number 5. In this example, we have what is 70% of 110. We see that word what, so we're going to put an x in that location. That's going to be the is. The of is 110, so it's going to go underneath. And then we have 70%, so that's 70 per 100. So let's go ahead and put that 70 over 100. Now 70 to 100, they both end in 0, so we can divide them both by 10. And so we're going to have x to 110 is equal to that ratio of 7 to 10. Okay. Going from here, 10 goes into 110 nicely. It's multiplied by 11. So 7 is going to become this x also by multiplying by 11. So 7 times 11, that's 77. So we can say x equals 77. We can go ahead and say that 77 is 70% of 110. Here's number 6. For number 6, we have what is 5% of 70. And so when we see that word what, that's going to be x, that's going to go on top for the part. The whole is going to be 70, that's the of, and then the 5% is 5 per 100. Okay, 5 and 100, they can both be divisible by 5 here, so I'm going to divide them both by 5. Then we get this simplified ratio of x to 70 stays the same on the left side, but on the right we have 1 to 20. Okay, now it doesn't go in perfectly, but we can go in and figure out what is 70 divided by 20. I believe that's going to be 3.5, so we're going to multiply this by 3.5, or times 3.5. And if you multiply 1 by that 3.5 or 3.5, we're going to find out here that x is going to equal 3.5. So that's going to be 5% of 70. So we can say that 3.5 is 5% of 70. Let's check out number 7. In this part, we have some different types of problems, so that x location is going to move a little bit. So here we have 15 is what percent of 45. Notice how the location of that word what has moved from the first 6 problems together. We actually know what the is going to be in this problem. The is 15. The of is 45, so we know both the is and the of, but we don't know the percent, so let's put the x on top of 100%. Now let's go ahead and simplify. This time we're going to divide this ratio on the left side by their GCF. So dividing these both by 15, we're going to get this ratio of 1 to 3, or 1/3, and that's going to be equal to x to 100. Okay, now figuring out what 3 goes into 100, it doesn't actually go in evenly, so we can multiply this by a fraction, so 3 times this 100 over 3. Hopefully you're going to notice that this is going to be a repeater, but we're going to multiply both top and bottom by this 100 over 3. So make sure we do that on top and bottom. And so if we do that, 1 times 103, that means x is going to equal 100/3, but that's also equal to 33 1/3. Therefore, we can say that 15 is 33 1/3%, or 33.3 repeater percent of 45. For number 8, we have 17 is what percent of 85. So identify where that what is. It says what percent. I'm going to actually put that on top of the 100 first here. The 17 is going to be the is on top, and the 85 is going to be the of on bottom. So I'm going to put 85 down here. Looks like on the left, it looks like maybe it can't be simplified, but actually, even though 17 is prime, it happens to be a factor of 85. So you can divide both of these by 17. You can go ahead and divide those by 17. Then we're going to get the simplified ratio of 1 to 5. Okay, and that's equal to x to 100. All right, now how does 5 become 100? Well, we can multiply that by 20. And so 1 times 20 is going to get us our x value. And so x here is going to equal 20. Therefore, we can say that 17 is 20%, or 1/5 of 85. For number 9, we have 8 is what percent of 400. So we can see here that word what, that's going to be our x, so we don't know the percentage. Put that x over 100. The is going to be 8, and then the of is going to be 400. Okay, now let's go ahead and simplify this ratio. I think we can divide the 8 and the 400 both by 8. If we go ahead and do so, then this is going to be, let's see, it's going to be 1 to 50, okay, is equal to x to 100. Again, there's more ways than one to do this, but hopefully this is making sense. So we can multiply 50 times 2, and then we can multiply 1 times 2. And if we do that, we can see here that x is going to equal 2. Therefore, we can say that 8 is 2% of 400. Let's check out number 10. For number 10, we have 160 is what percent of 40. We see that word what for the percentage, so let's put x over 100. For the 160 is, that's going to be on top, and then the of 40, that's going to be on bottom. Now for this 160 and 40, turns out that 40 times 4 is 160, so we can divide the top by 40 and the bottom by 40. That's their GCF. If we do that, we're going to get the ratio of 4 to 1 is equal to x to 100. And how does 1 become 100? Well, we can multiply this by 100, right? Multiply by 100, and then we're going to multiply this 4 by 100 to get that x value. So if we do that, we're going to find out that x is going to equal 400. So we can see here that 160 is 400% of 40. For number 11, we have 75 is what percent of 60. And so again, we have what percent, so the x is going to be the unknown over 100. The is going to be 75, and the of is going to be 60. Okay. For 75 to 60, we can divide these both by 15. That's going to be their GCF. Okay. Dividing these both by 15, we're going to get a ratio of 5 to 4. 5 to 4 is equal to something to 100, so that something has to be bigger than 100. So 4 times 25 is going to get you 100, and then 5 times 25 is going to get us this x value. So 5 times 25, that's 125, so x equals 125. We can go ahead and say that 75 is 125% of 60. For number 12, we have 126 is what percent of 56? That word what is next to the percent again, so that's something unknown over 100. The is here is going to be 126, and the of is 56. For 126 and 56, you can actually divide these both by 14 here. So I'm going to divide by 14 and divide by 14. If we do that, we're going to get a simplified ratio of 9 to 4. Okay, and that's going to be equal to x to 100. Okay, now this works out pretty nicely. 4 multiplied by 25 gets you 100. So 9 times 25 is going to get us the value for x. And so if we do that, 9 times 25, I believe, is going to be 225. For number 13, we have 15 is 10% of what number? Okay, now starting from number 13 and for these last 6 set of practice problems, notice that the word what is over here to the right next to the word of. So we make sure that the of is going to be that x or unknown. The is 15, and we know the percent again, so 10% is going to be 10 over 100. Okay, so in this set of 6 practice problems, x is going to be on the bottom, and let's simplify the ratio to right. We can simplify by dividing both by 10, so we're going to have the ratio of 15 to x is equal to 1 to 10. And now let's see, 1 to 15, that's going to multiply by 15, going from the right to the left. And then from 10 to x, we're going to multiply by 15 as well. So 10 times 15, we're going to say x equals 150. So we can say that 15 is 10% of 150. For number 14, we have 35 is 25% of what number? So we see that word what, and that's going to be where the of is going to be. So let's put x down here on the bottom left. The is going to be 35, put that on the top left, and then we know the percentage, it's 25%, so that should be 25 per 100. On this right side, looks like we can divide both 25 and 100 by their GCF of 25. If we do that, we're going to get the ratio of 35 to x on the left side is equal to 1 to 4 on the right side. Now how does 1 become 35? What's going to be multiplied by 35? And how does 4 become x? That's going to also multiply by 35 here. 4 times 35 is 140, so we can say x equals 140. So we can say here that 35 is 25% of 140. For number 15, we have 30 is 150% of what number? And we can see that word what is next to the word of, so we're going to put that on the bottom left for that x. The is going to be 30. Let's go ahead and put 30 on the top left, and then we have 150%, so that's 150 per 100. For 150 to 100, we can divide these both by 10, and I think we can just kind of leave it at that. We can simplify more if you want to, but I don't think we have to in this case. You'll see why in just a moment. So not always the best or most efficient to simplify all the way down, but this 15 does happen to be a factor of 30, so if you notice that, then you can save a little bit of time. And so if we multiply by 2 on top, we should multiply by 2 on bottom. So we can say here that x would equal 20. Therefore, we can say that 30 is 150% of 20. For number 16, what do we have? Looks like we have 9 is 20% of what number? And so this what is going to be x here. So setting this up, x is in the bottom left where the of is. The is 9, and then the 20% is 20 per 100. Okay, so the ratio of 20 per 100, we can divide those both by 10 there. So it's just a ratio of 2 to 10. But we can also afterwards divide top and bottom by 2, just because 2 doesn't go into 9 perfectly. So that's okay. We can go ahead and simplify it down a little more just to avoid fractions and decimals if possible. So we're going to get the ratio of 1 to 5. That's what 20% is. And this is kind of nice because 1 multiplied by 9 will get us that 9. And then 5 multiplied by 9 will get us what x is. So we're going to say that x is going to equal 45. So we can go ahead and say that 9 is 20% of 45, or 1/5. For number 17, we have 48 is 80% of what number? And again, that word what is over to the right, so that's going to be where the of is, so bottom left. The is going to be 48, so I'm going to put 48 on top. And then 80% is a ratio of 80 per 100, so let's put that to the right. 80 and 100 can both be divided by 10. That's one of their common factors, not their GCF, but we don't need the GCF in this case because 8 goes into 48 nicely. So let's go ahead and write 48 to x is equal to 8 to 10. And then from here we can say, okay, how does 8 become 48? It's going to be times 6. So 10 multiplied by 6 will get us what x is. So x here is going to equal 60. So we can go ahead and say that 48 is 80% of 60. Finally, for one last practice problem for number 18, we have 54 is 60% of what number? The what is located over to the right where the word of is. So let's go ahead and put the x where the of location or bottom left is. The is going to be 54, which is the top left, and then the 60% is a ratio of 60 per 100. Now for the 60 and 100, we can divide those both by 10. So we get a ratio of 6 to 10. So we didn't use the GCF, but again, just like the last one, you'll see here that we didn't need it, but feel free to go even lower with the simplification if you would like to. And then here, the reason why I stopped was 6 actually is a factor of 54, or 54 is a multiple of 6. So just multiplying by 9 here, 10 times 9 on the bottom is going to get us x. So x is going to be 90. Therefore, we can go ahead and say that 54 is 60% of 90. So there you have 18 different practice problems on solving these percent proportion problems. Hopefully separating the keywords of is and of and the word what was helpful, and knowing that percentages are ratios per 100 helped you set up these equations to go ahead and solve them. If you found the video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing with a classmate or friend who might also find some benefit of watching this video as well. And as always, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next one.